Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie List. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, Daniel Carsenty. Tell my audience the premise of your documentary, The Devil's Drivers.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me here. This is a movie about a man who is specialized on transporting workers over the border. He does this in one of the most dangerous regions of the world. Our film sets out as a chase action real-life documentary and ends as a deeply personal, intimate portrait of a man living on the edge, trying to be the best father he can to his kids and raise a family in a world falling apart.
All right. And so you are of Israeli heritage, am I correct?
Yes.
And your co-director is of Palestinian heritage?
Yes.
So I think that is probably like a thing that people bring up often is maybe how did you guys come together, and do both of you kind of get some hate for making that decision?
I mean, we met at a coffee machine just very randomly. Mm-hmm. And I think the second part of your question is the more difficult question. I think the moment we would stand out to the world and say this is our premise, I think that was the moment we would encounter a lot of difficulties from all different sides, from all sides that are interested that people don't work together, who are on two sides of a war. Personally, I see the human being. And for me personally, the idea of not working together with someone based on his nationality is absurd. That would be like not working with someone based on his sexuality, which is luckily today absurd too. So it's a little bit hard for me actually to understand the concept of people who would criticize this on the level of, hey, we've got the same blood, we've got the same skin. We belong to a different team. But again, I think that anyone who is actually like a little bit more enthusiastic, if we go back, like, for example, Clinton, would be able to actually solve this problem. This problem is not solved because of our own unwillingness on our own sides. People love to stay in boxes. The moment we have the courage to leave these boxes, this problem could be realistically solved in 5 to 10 years. So again, I refuse to see anyone as my enemy, and in very particular, of course, Mohammed.
Well, I appreciate that attitude, and I wish more people felt that way. I'm sure a lot of people do already, but you know, there's still a very stubborn segment, like you were saying before the interview. Your dad who won't go to East Berlin.
True, but he's doing it as a bad joke.
Oh, okay.
Actually, my family comes from East Berlin, or not from East Berlin, from Magdeburg. But so for him, that's just the joke, actually.
Well, that's a relief. Okay, so would you work with Mohammed again? Would you do another documentary? Would you make a feature film with them?
At the moment, we're going a little bit separate directions in the terms of that he's shooting a movie in Berlin, and I'm preparing a documentary that takes place in America. Right. So we are actually a little bit going in different directions. But I think that if you're like Mohammed and me, like working 9 or 10 years, I mean, that's like an average marriage in most countries. So I think that's also like just obvious at some point that we do different projects. But that doesn't have any subtext, or there's no laced message behind that.
But maybe one day you'll come together again.
Of course, maybe we'll shoot the second part with his son. I mean, His son is now 12, and you saw what kind of a rascal he was when he was 7, 8. So you can imagine what kind of a charismatic boy he would be when he's 14 or 15. So I think there is very much potential actually for a second part of this film. Murad going from 15 to 20, but again, you know, who knows how the stars align in the future.
Right. Okay. So tell me about getting to know and establishing trust with your subjects in this documentary?
There are different techniques. And I think one that we often use, for example, when we would arrive in a village was a driver, and we would get out, we'd mostly have like a circle of kids around us. And I would mostly sit in the passenger seat. When I would get out with the camera, they would all look at the camera. So what I would do is I would go to the height of their eyes. I would be on their level, and I wouldn't take pictures of them. I would lift the camera in a way that they could operate the camera with my hand. So suddenly they were familiarizing themselves with the camera, and they were familiarizing themselves with us through the camera. And suddenly they were basically like mock taking pictures of themselves. I mean, I would pull the focus, but they would be pushing the button of the camera. So suddenly what is like an intrusion into their world, a camera, like a submarine coming into a community, would be something else. It would be something that the kids already know and play with. Mm-hmm. And the grown-ups, I mean, Mohammed would more like, talk to our guide, talk to, grown-ups who would come and ask, who are you? So in a way, Mohammed would give the people the rational answers to rational questions. And I would more give the kids emotional answers like, who are you and what are you doing, by participating them in our process.
All right. So that's interesting. Tell me about the Bedouin drivers, and would you describe them as fearless people?
Interesting, I would describe them as very careful people, people who do a lot of precaution. But when the situation arises, they are fearless in the sense that, there's this metaphor, you're driving with a car to train tracks and you have a chance to drive fast and not get hit by the train, or you drive slow and might get hit by the train if you brake. And they are, of course, people who would always accelerate to get out of a dangerous situation. They're not the people who would brake and risk something happen. So I think that they know that often like courage and ruthlessness is what brings you along and might even bring you to safety. And I think that's like what strongly speaks for their character.
All right. Has the Israeli government reacted to this piece of work?
I mean, this is a cultural piece of work and not the work of public diplomacy. So right. I have not been in contact with them, and they've not been in contact with me. Okay. But I have a phone number, I have an address, I have an email address. I'm an existing human being, so whoever wants to talk to me.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. I mean, right. Take it as an address. They can, whenever wants, can inquire a meeting.
Okay. What piece of advice would you give Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
Wasn't there like this beautiful sentence, I think, of American president to one of the Russian leaders, like, step down? Wasn't there something like...
Tear down this wall?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That would be it. Yeah. Tear down this wall in your heart and in your mind.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I don't know if he would listen to that, but what about like a concrete, like just like a small piece of thing, like a small piece of business?
A small piece of business is, of course, on a moral ethical level, like don't be cruel. On a practical level, like just take down settlements that are considered illegal by international and by Israeli law. That would be a very good first step.
I don't know how that's even a thing. I don't know how that's still a thing after all these years. It seems ridiculous to me. I'm not like, I mean, I just live in Canada. It's not my region. And, I'm not familiar with a lot. It just sounds ridiculous to me.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how scary is it to deal with Israeli law enforcement?
For me, it wasn't scary.
Right.
I mean, coming from Los Angeles now, dealing with law enforcement, if you're respectful and careful, you keep your life. So for me personally, it wasn't scary. I can't speak for Mohammed.
Yeah.
I deal with soldiers or police always very professionally. So you greet, you say your name, you say the purpose, what you're there. Of course, I trust the power of my press identification. I trust the fact that I have an accreditation. And that's it, basically.
Okay. What were discernible lessons you got from documentary filmmaking from The Devil's Drivers?
Wow. Of course, like trust your gut instinct. Very interesting. I think what I personally learned, and that's also I'm strongly influenced by the movies of Nicholas Winding Refn.
Oh, cool.
That when action happens, we don't care actually about the action. What we care is about the emotion of the people participating. And I would say postmodern movies have learned from Michael Bay. We know how the explosion looks. We know how the bus looks when it's falling down from the bridge. But what we don't know is what do the people feel who are actually experiencing this. And I think that's the power of documentary, that we want to actually stay with the camera on the person experiencing this. And we want to trust that these emotions that build up in this person, that they transport to the audience. And of course, we also want to know what this person thinks. But for this possibility, we can later also do interviews to a little bit fill up the gaps. So yes, the human being and how the human condition reacts to dangerous situations. I think that's what I learned during this film.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Daniel, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoyed the documentary. It was a lot of fun and interesting and engaging and everything like that. My final question is, how do you feel being included in TIFF this year?
Wow, that's amazing. When Tom said the sentence after 23 minutes of talking to me, moving on, we want to include you in the official selection of our festival. That was very hard for me to keep a blank face. That was a little bit of a meltdown for me after 9 years of real struggle.
So it felt good.
It felt great.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to seeing more work by you in the future.